It's nice to see you. Hip mobility is a big deal, and becomes a bigger deal the more we find ourselves in a seated position. Additionally, we want to be able to open up through the hips without causing tons of strain or trauma or pain in our body. So the only way that we can do that is practice hip mobility. And there are several different exercises that you can do. We're just going to do a few, but really we're working up, opening up the hips so that we can get into firelog pose. Make sure you have a block or a ball accessible to give you some prop or some assist. And so firelog pose is when you take one shin out in front of you on the bottom, and if you have a mat nearby, then you just line the shin up to the mat, and think front bottom knee in line with the hip. And then the top shin stacks right on top. So think ankle on top of knee and knee over ankle, and both your feet stay really active. So you can tell, like, my top knee is very high because my hips feel tight, and this is where you would use a prop. So you could just kind of slide something in there so that you don't feel like you also have to hold the knee up because it hurts so bad or the hips are so tight. I promise that if you practiced this sequence every day, and if every day feels too overwhelming, then let's just start with 3 times a week. You will notice a big difference in your ability to get the knee lower, or also to just be more comfortable in this hip opening firelog pose. So just for posterity, I'll check my other side to see what this side looks like. Doesn't feel as tight. I would still want to use a prop if I were going to sit here for an extended period of time. The spine stays neutral, and again, as much as possible, you're looking to stack your shins on top of each other, okay? So we'll start with this 90-90 seated pretzel move. So front shin is forward, back leg is back, or your other leg is back behind you. Both your knees are bent into a 90-degree position. From here, take your back leg and lift the knee up. You feel a stretch through the hip flexors and maybe into the inner thigh. And then you bring the knee down. You can shift your torso forward to lift the ankle and the toes up. So we're gonna just do that a few times. Lifting the knee, your front leg and shin stays really still, it doesn't move at all. And then you shift forward, keep the waistline engaged, lift your ankle and your knee so you have the inner and outer spiral of the thigh. Try to keep your spine lengthened. And then, without using your arms as much as possible, switch your legs so that the opposite leg comes forward. And you're sitting yourself up into this like seated pretzel position. If you have new hips and this position feels very tight for you, I would suggest, like, don't do this one right now unless you are super comfortable with that inner and outer spiral of the hip. Lift your ankle, feel the inner spiral. Lift your knee, keep your front shin down. You could do this from a standing position if you felt like it was too challenging to get down on the floor to do this stretch. You would just stand up to like a seated pretzel position, bend your knee, take it back behind you, and then lift the knee and then lift the ankle. One more time. Oh, and if you get cramps, then you gotta move to get out of them. So from this 90-90 on the floor, then we'll move, right? I'm just gonna go kind of parallel or profile so that you can see a little better. 90-90, pull the waistline in, you lift the knees, and you switch sides, right? So now you get this fuller range of movement. As much as possible, try not to use your arms. And you do kind of end up kind of crab walking, your hips end up in different positions, and that's okay. Make sure you've done like even number on each side. Then you're gonna come up into a tabletop position. From your tabletop position, press the tops of your feet down and really push down into your feet and your shins. Shift your heart forward. Find a little bit of an extension through the spine. So think heart up, tailbone up. And then press back, tuck the hips under, bring the chin to your chest. So just a couple or cat-cows here, just to open up, find some connection with your body. Then come back through center. Take your knees out to the edges of your mat and bring your toes together. So we're moving into child's pose, only it's a much wider child's pose. I want your knees to be as wide as you can get them. Then sit your hips back towards your heels. And if you need to keep your torso upright like this, that's fine. Get your hips towards your heels first and work there. Once you're comfortable with the hips towards your heels, then you can walk your hands down and melt the torso down. But the minute you start to feel like your butt lifts up, you need to walk back, tuck the hips, get your tailbone down, heels touch your glutes. And even if you're here, I'd rather you be here than get lower and lift your hips. This opens up through the hips. If it feels good to you, you can move a little side to side. And then lift yourself up. Bring your knees to hips with distance and step your right foot forward. You can have a block here to support you if you'd like. Bring your left knee way back behind the hip and then hands to your front thigh. Push into the front thigh, lift your torso up, and you feel a stretch down the right side or left side hip flexors. Breathe. Draw the navel in. Take your left hand down to the mat. Right hand is still on the thigh, and then rotate your spine to the right. Come back through center. Bring your right hand to the inside of your foot. Open your foot out to the side. So from here, you come onto the edge of your front foot. Open the knee without dropping the hips down. Come back through to center. Take your leg back behind you. Move your hips a little side to side. And then step your left foot forward. Slide your right knee back. In these stretches, take your hands on top of the thigh. Push into the thigh, lengthen your spine. In these stretches, you're welcome to hold for as long as you'd like. Or to, stop the video, do it, and then start again. Take your time. Let yourself be in the stretch. Take your right hand down, left hand to your thigh. Rotate your spine. Come back through center. Left hand down. Open your left knee out to the side without dropping your hips. Lift up through the pelvic floor, up through the inner thighs. Come back through center. Step back to your tabletop position. And then lift up to downward facing dog. You can walk your hips side to side or bend one leg, straighten out the other. Walk your hands and feet towards each other. Inhale, bring the torso all the way up. Roll the shoulders around. You can shake your hands out if they feel tight. Step into your wide straddle. Lower yourself all the way down and then round through the upper body. Lift yourself up just about halfway or to the point that you're able to keep neutral spine. Bend your right knee and hold. So stretch through the left inner thigh. Push down into your right foot to straighten the leg and then bend your left knee. So here you're feeling this deep opening into the hips. Reach your hips back and your heart forward. Push into the left foot, straighten the leg, lift your torso up. You can move your hips a little side to side. This is a great stretch sequence to do even if you're not working towards firelog, but it just helps to open up through the body. Turn your right toes out to the side, bend your knee, come into warrior two. Draw your left hip kind of down and back, lengthen your spine and reach your torso up. Arms come out to shoulder height and your fingers reach away from each other. So some things to watch in warrior two is that you're not leaning forward. Try to keep your spine as neutral as possible, but the front knee has a big deep bend. Push down into the pinky toe side of the back foot. Then you can reverse the warrior. Keep the bend into the front knee. Engage the abdominals, lift up. Come into an extended side angle. Right forearm can come to the thigh, down to a block, or to the ground, and reach your left arm up and over. Really push the front knee back and out. Inhale, lift up. Straighten the front leg, turn the toes in. Left toes turn out, warrior two. Remember, right hip kind of goes down and back. Squeeze your right leg super straight. And then lengthen your spine. Reverse your warrior. Engage the waistline, lift up, and then find extended side angle. Push your left knee back just a little, feel the side waist opening. Inhale, lift up. Straighten the leg, turn your toes forward, fold down, wide straddle. Come down onto your mat. Find a butterfly pose here. You can grab onto the ankles or the shins, lift your torso up. And we're going to work on getting into firelog in a methodical step-by-step way. So extend your legs forward into Dandasana. Keep your spine upright. Take your right ankle on top of your left thigh. If this is not accessible for your body today, the ankle can go lower than the knee. You just don't want to push the ankle into the knee joint. So this would be step one. You can stay here as long as you'd like. Make sure and feel that the pelvis is neutral, so it's level. You're not pushing weight into the right or the left side. Reach up through the heart and up through the head. This is a hip opening stretch. Both your feet are active. As you progress and the hips start to loosen and feel more open, your straight left leg underneath you can start to bend, right? And you might lean back, which is fine, but keep the chest lifted, the spine stays neutral, and you eventually can come to a point where the bottom leg has a 90-degree bend and your foot is on the floor. Reach your heart up. There's some rounding that happens through the low back here. Just keep the collarbones wide. You don't want to round through the shoulders. And you can stay here. The next move is to bring your bottom shin down. So like I hold on to my top leg, right? So that my bottom leg has space to move. And then I'm going to shift forward onto my hips and lay my right ankle on top of the left thigh and sit up tall. So you can see already the space from my top knee to my bottom ankle is much less than at the beginning of this video. So it's like showing you exactly how big of an impact those hip opening stretches can make in your body. Extend your legs back out to Dandasana. You can roll the ankles around. Then take your left ankle on top of the thigh, above the knee joint, or below, depending on your flexibility. You could also practice this in a chair, like if getting down on the floor is not something that's in your repertoire today. Sit on the edge of a chair and you can bring the ankle up on top of the thigh and sit up tall and practice opening the hip from there. It's still totally valid and a hip opener. So start to bend your bottom leg. Right knee starts to bend. Stop at the point where you're like feeling too much pain or pressure anywhere in the body. And also, if you can't breathe normally, balanced with inhales and exhales, then you're too deep into the pose. So you have to pay attention. When you're ready to work into it, remember every step is filled with love and exploration, not this like have to force the body into something. Open. Let the body work into it rather than forcing something that's not meant to be. When you're ready, might not be today even, you can take your bottom shin and lower it down and then stack top shin on top. This side feels maybe a little bit lower, but not as much as the ego brain thinks it should be, right? And that's okay. You could use a prop. Once you get into some semblance of this firelog pose, you're welcome to stay here for like up to 5 minutes. Just make sure you do the other side with the other leg on top as well for about a balanced amount of time. When you get to the point that you'd like to sit here for longer than a few breaths, you can set a timer on your phone, close your eyes, and focus on your breathing. Be sure that you are supported. So unless your top knee is down resting on the ankle, I would recommend putting some sort of a prop underneath and in between the knee and the ankle so that your body is supported. This allows the body to open instead of like internally, maybe even without even noticing, we're like holding on or holding back, which inhibits the opening that is what we're looking for. If you're interested in practicing this as a sequence, repeat the stretch sequence as much as possible, 3 times a week, every day, whatever works for you in your schedule. If you like, and firelog pose is what you're working on, you could always do like firelog pose at the beginning just so that you have that understanding of where you started from and where you end up, as long as it doesn't become like this internal icky competition, right? Think of this as an opportunity to spend some time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, really just focusing on opening up the body, paying attention to how it feels to stretch the body, and also being amazed at how much the body changes and grows and gets used to what you're asking it to do. I'm excited to see, with a consistent hip opening practice, how much my own firelog pose evolves, and I hope that you are as well. Please take pictures, like share them in our group. You can post them on social media, because when people see us working on it, they're inspired to also work on it themselves. Thanks for being here. I can't wait to see what happens with your hip opening practice. I'll see you soon.